Over the 75 years plus of NASCAR running its business and its sport, there have been so many controversial calls that just show how incompetent NASCAR is at staying with either the rule they made or showing favoritism. In this video, we're going to be looking at the times the NASCAR sanctioning body and officials made some of the worst calls in NASCAR history that changed the outcome of somebody's race or even career. The 2007 Kansas Fall race saw Greg Biffle with 5 laps to go leading the race. Ultimately, the caution would come out and NASCAR would decide not to go into overtime, handing the win to Greg Biffle.
And having a shot to win it with 1 lap to go.
Wake up, Dorothy. This is not a dream. It's real. Right here.
You are back in Kansas, kid, but you know what? Greg Biffle, he's a pretty tough hombre when it comes to passing people.
Unless the tire's flat.
He's got to stay out here. Just a few laps to go. Probably a green-white checker coming up.
Pull your belts down, guys. Get after it because you only have a white-green checker here.
Green-white checkered. And by the way,
that's what
Biffle,
I meant, I think, right?
We meant what you knew.
I know how excited you are.
What I do, yeah.
You know what? We talk about Greg Biffle and Clint Boyer, but how about Jimmy Johnson now? He's back on the bumper of these two guys. He could be the spoiler for the whole deal. Well, due to the darkness, they're saying they are not going to they're not going to restart this race because of the darkness on the racetrack here. And it is going to finish as promised on lap 210. That's why you see these guys down there in the Roush Fenway pits celebrating.
But as you see, as Greg Biffle comes across the start-finish line, he is not actually leading the race. Actually, Clint Boyer and Jimmy Johnson both passed Greg Biffle and effectively assumed the lead. This is where the controversial part comes in. The rule is you must maintain pace speed, or if you're passed, you will lose your positions. Biffle did not maintain pace speed and was passed. But NASCAR, in their wise wisdom, decided to still give the win to Greg Biffle and take the finishes of Clint Boyer and Jimmy Johnson and put them back in 2nd and 3rd place. And they were furious in their post-race interviews.
Jerry, it's very interesting coming to the start-finish line the last time, though. I know you and the 07 were sort of interested in whether or not the 16 might be the victor.
Yeah, he was clearly out of gas. I feel terrible for Greg. He's been working so hard to win a race and is up there in position to win it. But if you don't maintain pace car speed, you don't hold your position. And it was clear to everyone that he couldn't do it. If he could have, he would have stayed on the bumper of the pace car to the finish line. So, in my opinion, where he coasted across the finish line relative to the other cars that could maintain pit road speed is where he should finish.
And therefore, that would put you 2nd instead of 3rd because the 07 was ahead of you.
It would. I'm all about me right now. I know it put me 2nd.
Hey, but it's more points.
It is more points.
Second one may not have just as much meaning. What are your thoughts right now?
I don't know what to think. I thought you at least had to finish on your own power across the finish line. I don't know if we were supposed to wait on them or what we were supposed to do, but, nonetheless, it was a good day for us.
It does sound like you're questioning the finish.
Well, I mean, it's kind of weird he couldn't make it across the finish line, but I don't think anybody knows. I mean, Jimmy and Jeff behind me didn't know either, so I don't know what's going on.
Clint Boyer, 2nd place finisher.
Even more controversial calls, let's talk about the time where NASCAR didn't even see that when the leader jumped the restart, and they only saw it because it was shown on TV. Somehow, even with officials at the track, NASCAR still managed to screw up this call. And it wasn't brought to light until Martin Truex said it in his post-race interview, because, of course, Fox didn't even show it live.
In the restart box, well, you see Martin chase him all the way down there with the side draft, trying to hold him at bay so he doesn't get clear.
Can you rein him up the racetrack a little bit? Still there, side by side. Still holding tough on the outside, Martin Truex Jr.
And, I don't know. He jumped the start and then just used me up in turn 1, so definitely sucks, but good solid day and another car capable of winning. So we'll just have to come back next week, try to get him again.
Thanks, Martin.
Yeah.
Fixing to take the white flag and fixing to take his first win in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, Parker Kligerman, a fan favorite, was fixing to make history for his little team. Kligerman was leading at the Charlotte Roval until a car on the other side of the track ran into the tire barriers. But NASCAR didn't throw the caution. They waited over 15 seconds to throw the caution when Kligerman was 5 feet from the start-finish line. Ultimately, Parker Kligerman didn't get to the white flag, even though he should have, because it took NASCAR so long to throw the caution. It's like they were trying to manipulate and rig some artificial drama in their series. Kligerman did a classy interview post-race, but nonetheless, he was extremely upset and disappointed. And personally, I am extremely upset at the decision by NASCAR officials.
Yes, a major. Here you go. Here's the, at the time of caution.
So they're claiming this is the absolute timestamp of the yellow. That is a screenshot of where the 48 is. It doesn't look that close in live, but remember, there is a delay to the yellow lights. So it's all electronic now.
We got to get this fixed. I'm sorry. As a fan, I should see a light and say that's it. There should not have to go back and say, well, wait a minute, there's a timestamp. I mean, it needs to make sense, and it needs to be simple to observe.
Like the shot
I'm not
clock.
saying it's wrong.
I'm with you, though. It's like the shot clock.
That's
like,
exactly
I want to
right.
see the backboard, light up red, and it's either touching his fingers or the shot's been released. Pit road, looking at the start finish, you see the 48 right there. As we roll this barely forward, you're going to see just above the hood of the 48.
Yep, right
and
there.
I mean, a foot before the yellow light flashes on. We roll it back and forth like it right there. There's the spot. So if we look right there, just above the 48, clear on the start-finish line, 2 feet. The yellow light is illuminated. The 48 is short by a couple feet. Great work, tape room.
I might have cheered up when I thought we got it there with the white flag and the caution comes out, and then had to refocus, and I was like, hey, I watched AJ in the Cup race last year nail a bunch of whatever years it was, nail restarts, and I was like, if I want to be this level, I got to nail this restart, and we did that. And then I thought I'd cut off turn 7 enough, but he somehow got below me, and then it was, on from there, and we got damage, and it was full contact. Sam didn't do anything egregious. It was hard racing, but as close as you could be to the line. God, I said I wanted to cry. I'm not going to cry, but I really love this game, and I just really, really wanted that, and it would have meant the world. But you know what? It meant the world to be in that position. And thank you to Scott Borchetta and everyone at Spike Coors.
The 2015 race saw one of the most controversial finishes, as it involved one of the most hated drivers at the time and the most liked driver at the time, Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Joey Logano. Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Joey Logano would lead the field back down across the restart as a huge wreck would ensue behind them. NASCAR would throw the caution and say the race was over. Not having a clear shot at who was leading the race, they would effectively give the win to Joey Logano. Unfortunately for Junior Nation, his win would not come that day.
Right here we see they're under green flag. NASCAR's looking at the track, trying to determine if these cars can drive off. It's very important to see who the leader is when the light comes on.
Caution comes out, and that's how close it is to determine who wins this race. From NASCAR, they are telling us that the 22 was in front, and so Joey Logano will sweep round 2. Unofficially, Joey Logano, the winner at Talladega. 3 consecutive wins in the second round of the chase. Mixed emotions out of the crowd.
Hitting the button to decide when the caution comes out is a huge controversial moment in NASCAR. It always has been and always will be. This was the problem with the 2024 Daytona 500, the biggest race of the year. Alex Bowman and William Byron were side by side when the caution came out. Ultimately, they gave the win to William Byron, but some camera shots show that Alex Bowman was in the lead.
Austin Cindric going for a wild ride here, as did Ross Chastain.
You see the light on, you see Bowman ahead of Byron right there, but need to back it up and see this again.
And the Daytona 500.
Race winner will be the 24. We'll need the 24 to start finish line.
Goes to victory lane, William Byron. From Charlotte, North Carolina, Rudy Fugle, his crew chief.
Yeah, I was pretty sure William had us, but you're going to let him debate it, right? I think a couple hundred more feet, and obviously we had the run, but just so proud of everybody at Hendrick Motorsports. It's 40 years to the day since they ran their first race. So
The double yellow line rule has always been controversial in NASCAR ever since it was first introduced. And still 20 years later, it's still prone for controversial calls. Just like when so many cars pushed another car below the yellow line, another car passed everybody below the yellow line, and it was a huge controversial moment. I don't even feel like explaining this because it's so confusing, but let's try. DeBenedetto pushes a car below the yellow line, which is William Byron. Eric Jones pushes Chris Buescher below the line. Who ensues pushes Denny Hamlin below the line. Denny Hamlin maintains his speed and continues to pass all of them and take home the checkered flag. So many cars probably should have been penalized, and this was just a huge controversial moment in NASCAR. Nobody was penalized, and they gave the win to Denny Hamlin.
Eric gets up into the wall. Now the 24, a big run. He slides. They make more contact. 3 wide as they come out of 4.
Hamlin to the inside. Side draft coming from the 24 car.
Denny Hamlin. William Byron through the triangle coming up to the stripe. And as they go across the stripe, a photo finish. Denny Hamlin gets the nod by 23 one-thousandths of a second.
No way. Look, we normally think about this yellow line being on the straight, but this is in the corner. He is on the apron of the racetrack.
I kind of have to see it from a different perspective to see if the 17 car gave him no choice.
But he still continues forward. Even though if the 17 gave him no choice, he still continues forward and passes these 2 cars.
I know, but the precedent's been set today that they have been black flagging the car that's forcing, and nothing's happening to the other guy who's on the apron. So if the precedent has been set, you would say that Denny did the same thing that anyone else did that got forced below that line today.
He just benefited in this situation.
The 2006 Xfinity race at Charlotte Motor Speedway saw a huge controversial moment where they even had to red flag the race to figure out what was even going on. What had happened was Casey Mears had come down pit road. After Casey Mears in the 42 car made his pit stop, as he was driving out of pit road, on the exit of pit road, there's a light. The light had flashed red where he could not exit pit road. Casey Mears proceeded to do so and was picked up ahead of Carl Edwards, who should have been scored in front of Mears. This started the huge controversial call as Mears pleaded with NASCAR's officials to say he deserved to be in front of Edwards, and Edwards' team did the same, that he should have been in front of Mears. This was one of the most wildest and wacky controversial moments that's probably forgotten by lots of fans. Still to this day, this is honestly one of my favorite controversial moments because it was so crazy.
That answers that question.
Yeah. Hey, Dave, bet he's taking tires now, Dave.
He is, but the question is 2 or 4. If they take 2, they can do it very quickly on the fuel because they don't need much.
There you see Mears, the 42. He is the race leader, but not at the front of that line. Alan.
Well, here's what Carl Edwards can't understand from the cockpit of his race car and what his crew chief Pierre Cattell is trying to get explained to him from down here. If Carl stayed on the racetrack and Casey Mears came down pit road, Casey would have had to have stopped at the end of pit road until the cars on the racetrack filed past him and then joined into the tail of the line. So they want to know how come Casey stopped and was able to get in front of them on the racetrack for this restart.
Do you have the answer to that, Alan?
No, I'd like somebody to call that one. I mean, that Kyle and Wally, that is how it works. When you come down pit road, you're supposed to fall in at the end of the line of the cars that are on the racetrack, right?
That's right, under yellow, yeah.
Right, so that's what they can't understand down here is how a guy that pitted gets to line up in front of them when they were on the lead lap when the yellow came out. Yeah, they were 1.5 miles behind, but they were on the lead lap, and the pace car did pick up Casey Mears as the leader, so they're trying to figure out how he was able to get past that stoplight at the end of pit road and get in front of them on the racetrack.
Is it a stoplight, Alan, or is there a guy down there with a paddle?
They had the big red and green light down here, yeah.
Okay.
So here's Mears coming down pit road.
And then we're looking for that light, and there's that light. See that red light there blinking?
That's red.
That's red.
And they have turned the lights back on, yeah. NASCAR's looking at it.
Yeah, they're trying to sort this out. That's why they haven't gone back to green.
And there it's green.
Yeah, that's not enough. Yeah, that's not enough distance to make any difference.
No. And I don't know how he ends up in front of him. You got me on that one.
because technically, just like they say, if he comes down pit road, he should be back behind him. If we looked at the scoring monitor, he should be, the 60 car should be leading the race. Everybody else should be behind him. Because the 60 car was the last car, was the car that was the tail end of the lead lap right in front of him on the racetrack when the caution come out.
But knowing that, shouldn't you, if you knew that was going to happen, then you should have stopped to put tires on.
Unless, the only unless comes is if Carl just loafed around the racetrack. Once the caution come out, if he just kind of took his time to get around the racetrack, then they had time to come in and out maybe. But no matter what, he should have blended to the longest line.
Okay, they've said the 60 is the race leader. And obviously, Brad's not happy.
A few moments later.
Casey, he may have enough there. He may have enough.
Oh, there. Here's and Edwards around. Caution is out. Daniel Quinn has gone around. Matt Kenseth sneaks.
Mark Martin, NASCAR's lovable loser. He never won a championship, but man, did he come close. In 1 year, Mark Martin lost the championship by a handful of points. And those points were taken away from him mid-season when Dale Earnhardt Sr. and Richard Childress Racing pleaded with NASCAR to go check race winner's Mark Martin's car. They found an illegal part on Martin's car, docked him points, and fined him. And those points would have come in oh so handy. He would have been the champion instead of Earnhardt at the end of the season. This is still probably one of the most desperate things a team did to win a championship, but it worked for Dale Sr.
Mark Martin striving. He's coming to the line. He is the strongest car of the day. Mark Martin has won his second Winston Cup race.
As Roush and his team celebrated the checkered flag in victory lane, a rival competitor for the Cup was raising a red flag in the garage.
And Richard Childress was standing there with a NASCAR inspector, and he pointed and he said, "That's it right there." And he was pointing at the carburetor spacer, which was 2.5 inches tall and can only be 2 inches tall.
It came down to a decision was made by NASCAR that it was not legal.
This penalty right here would cost Mark Martin a championship. This ultimately would have most likely been his only championship in the NASCAR Cup Series. Martin was docked points after this infraction and post-race inspection that Richard Childress and Dale Earnhardt Sr. saw. They pleaded with NASCAR and won their case. Martin would ultimately lose the point lead and lose his shot at a championship when he fell short at the end of the season. NASCAR says they don't show favoritism, but we all know they definitely do. When Davey Allison, a very likable driver, was wrecked by Ricky Rudd, he was black flagged. Rudd was black flagged and disqualified for aggressive driving and did not get to take home the victory at Sonoma. This is definitely showing some favoritism, as we've seen over the years people be wrecked, spun out, and even flipped on purpose, and they don't even get penalties. So this is blatant favoritism if I've ever seen it before.
Allison pulls away. Allison leads Rudd down through the S's. And Dave Marcus just ahead of Davey. And the white flag flies for Ricky Rudd. Officials apparently talking over this situation. He's headed toward you for the final time, Ned.
Dick Beatty is not here today. To turn 7 here and in very good shape as the NASCAR officials talk over what they're going to do.
Davey Allison's crew looks on. Davey's not too far behind him, too far behind him to catch him before they get back unless Rudd has a problem. But I'll tell you what, that's not a happy bunch of campers we just saw in that tied pit. I don't know what's going on down there, but they didn't look like they were jumping up and down with joy, Ned. Ricky Rudd brings the car once again down through the S's. This will be for the final time this afternoon. Now entering turn number 11.
In one of the most controversial finishes in NASCAR history, Justin Haley, quote-unquote, passes Kyle Larson and Elliott Sadler below the double yellow line. He crossed the finish line first, but then was disqualified because he passed them below the line. But re-looking at the video, he does not go below that yellow line. Justin Haley was robbed of his Daytona win in 2018.
between the 1 and the yellow line. Like it didn't really, I don't think it helped him, Junior. Do you?
No.
I mean, I think there was room, so he could have been right against the 1 and not been below the yellow line. So I don't know. Tough call for NASCAR.
Kyle Larson ends up winning. As you see, Haley was trying to celebrate, thinking it was his. The team was coming out there, but the rule is very clear.
It is a tough call. I really think that's your natural reaction as a driver to make that move, because he thought that the 1 car was coming down. So it's he's not looking at the line. It's a natural reaction.
When the caution comes out is always a big moment in NASCAR. It can decide somebody's race and even their season. And this, for the fact, was happening to Dale Jr. in 2004. Jr. looked to win another race at Talladega and make it another Talladega win for him and his team. But ultimately, Brian Vickers would reckon the back and the caution was thrown. NASCAR had a big controversial moment when they did not know who was leading. Was it Jeff Gordon or Dale Jr.? NASCAR said Jeff Gordon was declared the leader and won the race. This erupted the stands as they started raining beer cans down at Talladega. They were upset along with Dale Earnhardt Jr. Unfortunately for Jr., this wasn't the only time this would happen to him, as it would 10 years later.
Murray in the 42 car, Michael Waltrip in the 15, he's fighting his way back up.
Gordon inches ahead.
Right there is where Junior is so strong. Sailing off into the
trouble.
turn.
1 car around, and it's Brian Vickers.
All right, the caution is out, and we are past the red flag lap. We are past the red flag lap. But remember, the field was frozen when the caution flag came out.
And who at that moment was the leader? We'll have to go back and see.
It would be obviously either Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the 8 or Jeff Gordon in the 24.
Brian Vickers able to drive away after bringing out the 11th caution of the day in turn 3.
Well, there's no debris. There's no problem with the racetrack. I mean, I can't imagine we can't get this thing back started here with 4 laps to go. And when you are challenging the call, you pull up beside the guy. So how many challenges do we have here?
Jeff Gordon will be the leader.
And I think they just told the crowd that too.
Scoreboard is not yet changed to reflect that, but that is what we're being told as of the moment of caution. There is the spin.
And you saw he was about a half a car length ahead of Dale Earnhardt Jr. when Brian Vickers was completely sideways. Yellow light's already blinking.
That's the kind of finishes we have here. We normally just have them down here at the start-finish line.
And in NASCAR's determination at the moment of caution, that's when they decide who is the race leader. Not at the instant the car spins, but when the caution is issued by the NASCAR officials next door and on the flag stand.
And you got to remember, when they say up over here in the booth, put it out, it takes a second for the flagman to even get it out.
There you see right there, the yellow lights were on. So we pretty much know if we're going to get back racing, we have to get 1 to go this next time.
Oh boy, that could be disastrous.
And for that to happen, NASCAR needs to make sure that the track is clear and that the field is aligned. The fans, of course, they want to see a green flag finish. Safety of the drivers, though, is paramount. And Jeff Gordon will win the Aaron's 499 over Dale Earnhardt Jr., Jimmy Johnson, Kevin Harvick, and Robbie Gordon.
Was the decision by NASCAR correct? Did Gordon win the race as far as you're concerned?
Well, I mean, I'm biased, of course, but I felt like I was ahead of him before the light came on, and certainly, I mean, if I beat the light, I had to been pretty close on the flag. So, I don't know. I couldn't see the flag stand. I don't know exactly how NASCAR makes their decision on freezing the field, exactly when they freeze it, but I thought I was a miles ahead of him. I didn't even think it was close, but it's a great points day, first or second. So pretty happy about that. Unfortunately, we don't make the decisions or the rules, and we'll listen to what NASCAR.
Still to this day, I don't think this was even a rule. But Michael Waltrip Racing was caught cheating during the 2013 regular season finale, ultimately helping one of their drivers get into the chase. Jeff Gordon was the odd man out and was essentially added into the chase by NASCAR. NASCAR made an exception to add a 13th driver to the 12-driver chase that year. Jeff Gordon was added to the chase in 2013 and had a shot at a championship even though he didn't even make the chase on points. During the hectic and chaotic finish in the 2022 Indianapolis road course race, Ross Chastain essentially drove off the track on purpose to avoid what could have been a wreck, ultimately gaining him positions and taking the lead. The rule was if you missed the corner, you had to take this access road, which he did, but it gave him an advantage. So he was ultimately black flagged and did not get to maintain his finishing position. It was a wild finish though.
See that right rear of that forged glass? Is it bowed down?
Yep, kind of where the jack, between the orange jack screw and the black lining, it's bowed from the right side of the jack screw over.
Yeah, right by the K. When he's up to speed, I think pushes down about, I don't know, 2 inches, 3 inches.
The 2018 season saw 2 penalties from Kevin Harvick that were somewhat unwritten rules. The first one came in Las Vegas. Apparently on Reddit, somebody found and posted a picture of the rear window of Kevin Harvick's car. The rear window was warped in, creating an extra aerodynamic advantage for Kevin Harvick. Kevin Harvick went on to win the Las Vegas race, and on Tuesday of that following week, NASCAR put the hammer down on the Ford team, stripping them of the race win and the points they collected that day. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you would like to watch more content like this, please click this video right here. If you've enjoyed this video, please hit the like and subscribe button down below. Also, if you've liked this video, I'm pretty sure these videos will catch your eye also.